You may be seated. Good morning.
Good morning.
I also want to extend my welcome to those who are joining us remotely. Special shout out to Sally Spencer and to Leo and his friends in Searcy, Arkansas, who are joining us. Today's gospel narrative appears in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. These are known as the synoptic gospels, the same you, the same I. Each one of them, however, has slight variations in the story that they tell that we read from Luke this morning. When we read it in Luke's gospel, this narrative in Luke's gospel, we must keep in mind Luke's audience and the purpose for which he's writing. The Gospel of Luke is the first volume in a 2-volume work by this author. And the second volume, the book of Acts, deals with Jesus' followers in their work to spread the gospel about Jesus. These books were composed in the late 1st century by an unknown author that we call Luke. The book of Acts is a narrative that demonstrates how Gentiles, that is, non-Jews, can be included in God's covenant. The Gospel of Luke sets up that narrative by giving special emphasis to Jesus' encounters with marginalized people and non-Jews. There are episodes in Luke which are not in the other Gospels, and most of those special episodes deal with a Gentile experiencing Jesus' love and healing. So even though our narrative today appears in 2 other Gospels, it serves a specific function when placed in the context of Luke. This morning I want to walk through this text in order to highlight what might have been important to Luke and his audience. And I'm literally walking through it. So if you have a bulletin, you can follow along as I refer to these various verses. Luke 8:26. Then they arrived at the region of the Gerasenes, which is opposite Galilee. When we consider Luke's interest in Gentiles, it is striking but not surprising that Jesus has traveled by boat to an area that is not Jewish. The place and the people are opposite Galilee in more than just the geographical sense. Jewish people live in Galilee. Non-Jewish people live in Gerasa. These are not followers of Moses or people who consider themselves in covenant with God. From Jesus' Jewish perspective, these are the other. They're not one of us. They may not even be as good as us. As he stepped out on shore, a man from the city who had demons met him. For a long time, he had not worn any clothes, and he did not live in a house, but in the tombs. Now here's what we learn of the man. He's from the city. That means he's a Gentile. He was a part of a community, because he was from the city, and he had demons. He also did not wear clothes and lived not in a house, but in graves or tombs. Later in the text, it becomes clear that he lives in the tombs when the unclean spirit enters him, which from this text sounds like a periodic experience. Now, demons are common in the 1st century world. However, there was a time when they were not common and were, in fact, unheard of. The Old Testament has no demons or demons residing in a person. The Old Testament has deceptive spirits and spirits that come from God to afflict or trick a person, like the one that afflicted King Saul. So belief in demons developed over time. There's some Jewish literature prior to the New Testament that begins to hint at these demons. When we read the biblical material chronologically, we can see how beliefs develop over time. In about 300 BC, Jewish literature took a form that we now call apocalyptic. And one thing that characterizes apocalyptic is its wild scenes that are located in a heavenly realm. The scenes include monstrous beasts fit for science fiction, humans who are transported to the heavenly realm, and God. As theology developed to keep pace with the experience of believing people, it changes. Understanding what might now be looked upon as a mental health issue was then conceived as the work of demons inside a person. Now, this doesn't deny the existence of evil. Evil is real. Its impact on the world is real. Its impact on us is real. It's like a great force that surrounds us and permeates the world. But too often, since the first century, people have been quick to label others as filled with demons or demonic spirit when their behavior does not comport to normal, however we define that. Mental health research and treatment has been delayed in some places because of the belief that demons caused a person to act strangely. As we continue to grow in our understanding, like those who came before us, we gain new insight and knowledge. Someone who behaves like the man from Gerasa might today be treated for a chemical imbalance, a brain tumor, or some other possible structural issue in the brain. But we can learn from Jesus to treat those with mental health issues not as the other, not as evil, but with compassion, bringing whatever it is we have to their relief, to their acceptance. When he, the man, saw Jesus, he cried out and fell down before him, shouting, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, do not torment me." For Jesus had commanded the unclean spirit to come out of the man. The man who is never given a name sees Jesus. And he sees Jesus in the truest sense of the word. He recognizes him as divine. He apprehends and he comprehends the real identity of Jesus. And in this verse, the actions are compressed. The man sees Jesus, he cries out, he falls down, he shouts. Because Jesus had already commanded the unclean spirit to come out of the man. This liberation is painful and terrifying. In the process of the unclean spirit being called out of the man, he begs, "Do not torment me." This sounds terrible, and it is even more terrible when we know that the word for torment here is also used in the context of torture to extract information. Implicit in the term is the act of interrogation, which Jesus will do shortly. But before that happens, we get this parenthetical sentence from our author. For many times it, the unclean spirit, had seized him. He was kept under guard and bound with chains and shackles, but he would break the bonds and be driven by the demon into the wilds. This gives us more context to how helpless and disturbing this man's condition was. The unclean spirit would seize him. It was out of the man's control. Imagine the fear of not knowing when you might suddenly be gripped by the unclean spirit and lose all control. The uncertainty and frailty that comes with the random nature of the attacks is real. And the people around him, the people with him, yes, he is in community when he's not seized by the unclean spirit. The people around him would do what they could to subdue him. But his condition is so severe that even chains and shackles can't contain him. The community has done all they know to do, but it isn't helping. I do want to note here that the text doesn't say that he was violent against anyone. It appears that the violence is turned toward himself. When he breaks free, he is driven by the demon into the wilderness. This is where we get a really interesting literary connection. The verb that is used here for driven is used in only 5 other places in the New Testament. And in every other instance, it describes a boat being driven by the wind. Like the boat that Jesus was just in on his way to Gennesaret, that was driven by the windstorm and in danger of capsizing, this man is driven into the wilderness. And just as Jesus calmed the windstorm on the Sea of Galilee, he will also calm this man's personal storm. Jesus then asked him, "What is your name?" He said, "Legion," for many demons had entered him. They begged him not to order them to go back into the abyss. Now look closely at these 2 verses. Notice how at first Jesus and the man are in dialogue when suddenly the demons speak to Jesus. They reveal their names to be Legion. The Legion is a Latin word, and the New Testament was written in Greek, so what is a Latin word doing in the Greek text? I know that was really important to you today. The Roman army, which controlled Galilee and the whole region of Galilee, the whole region of Israel and Judah, they controlled this area through military divisions called legions. And a legion has about 5,000 soldiers in it. So not only are the number of demons in this man a vast number, but they are also like the occupying Roman army. They occupy the man and force him to do what he does not want to do. And that impacts not only the man, but his community as well. The demons beg not to return to the abyss, evidently from whence they came. And all we know about this abyss is that it's conceived of as a bottomless pit and is the abode of the demons. And evidently it must be pretty inhospitable if even demons don't want to be there. Now there on the hillside, a large herd of swine was feeding, and the demons begged Jesus to let them enter these. So he gave them permission. Then the demons came out of the man and entered the swine, and the herd stampeded down the steep bank into the lake and was drowned. Now, people raising hogs is a sure sign this is not a Jewish community. So hogs are unclean animals. And the unclean spirits suggest that Jesus sent them into the unclean animals. And he gives permission. They can't do it on their own. Only the Son of the Most High God can order them to leave. When the demons entered the pigs, they rushed down a steep embankment and they drowned in the Sea of Galilee, the same sea that the disciples earlier feared they were going to drown in. When the swineherd saw what had happened, they ran off and told it in the city and in the country. Then people came out to see what had happened, and when they came to Jesus, they found the man from whom the demons had gone, sitting at the feet of Jesus, clothed and in his right mind. And they became frightened. Comparing the 3 gospel accounts in Matthew, Mark, and Luke, in this narrative we note that only Luke has the man seated at Jesus' feet. Now, this is the posture of a disciple, one who learns at the feet of the Master. So Luke is going further in his narrative than the other Gospels have by implying, suggesting very strongly that this man has not only been saved, but as a result, he is now a disciple of Jesus. Those who had seen it told them how the one who had been possessed by demons had been healed. Then the whole throng of people of the surrounding region of the Gerasenes asked Jesus to leave them, for they were seized with great fear. So he got into the boat and returned. The man from whom the demons had gone out begged that he might be with him. But Jesus sent him away, saying, "Return to your home. Declare how much God has done for you." So he went away, proclaiming throughout the city how much Jesus had done for him. So this man, this unnamed man, is now desirous of being a disciple. And that's revealed in the language of the text. He didn't ask to follow Jesus. What he says is, if you look at it, he says he asked to be with Jesus, to exist with. It's a verb of existence, a verb of being. His identity's been transformed by Jesus, and now he only wants to be with Jesus. And Jesus said no. Sent him back to his home to tell how much God had done for him. The text then reports that he went away and he told how much Jesus had done for him. He didn't really follow instructions. But this is the clearest moment when Jesus is recognized by a foreigner, a stranger, an outcast, as the Son of the Most High God. Just as the Jewish disciples will go into the world proclaiming that Jesus is Lord, in Luke's second volume, the book of Acts will narrate how that gospel spreads throughout the Roman world. This man, with no name, but with a story to tell, is one of the first to spread the good news to those who are not of the house of Israel. Jesus was responsive to this man who was in trouble. His life and the life of his community were at risk because of the unclean spirit that entered him from time to time. And like he did on the sea, Jesus' words brought salvation to the man. He returned to life and to his community as a new man. Now, this narrative of the Gerasene demoniac fits well in Luke's gospel of inclusion. People who are viewed as outcasts or marginalized for one reason or another find acceptance from Jesus. The people that are written off as untouchable and unclean and outside God's love are drawn into the life of Jesus. The unnamed man learned this through his experience of liberation. And all those others in his community responded with fear and asked Jesus to leave. The unnamed man asked to be with Jesus. Luke's gospel invites us to join with the unnamed man in spreading the good news of what God has done for us through Jesus, the Son of the Most High God.